now?
Yep. So why don't you come even closer over here? Maybe we can. Okay. Folks, we're live here with Dark of the Night. Welcome to another spooky, exciting episode, full of all of the kind of exciting things that you've come to find yourself expecting from this great show. Now, you may be wondering why we're not in our usual haunted forest. Well, I was evicted from my apartment. Um, in addition to doing the show, which my landlord did not like, I was also selling Crocs shoes out of my apartment. My landlord did not find that agreeable, and so he gave me a few days' notice to find another apartment. So, as Alex and I relocate and look for another studio, we are doing the show in a different way. Isn't that right, Alex?
This is some. This is one of the occasions where I have to try to channel my anger into something positive, and I tried to do that earlier before the show, and I failed. So I'm just going to be angry in a negative way. And Erica, and we discussed that, and we decided that was a really good idea for me to be furious. And here's why I'm furious. Here's an honest man, my friend Eric, selling Crocs out of his apartment like an honest man in Brooklyn. And his landlord came to him and he said, "Are those Crocs that you made?" And Eric said, "Yes, he made the Crocs." And he said, "That's illegal." And Eric said, "Kiss my ass, you fuck." And the landlord said, I'm going to evict you up my ass.
First he said, "I'm going to arrest you," and I said that's not. I don't see how that's going to happen. And then he said, "Okay, well then I'll evict you." By the way, we should introduce our guest, Emma Rogers. Emma, thank you so much for joining us. And you are a doctor, Dr. Emma Rogers.
Yes. I'm a doctor. I'm going to community college to study the occult.
I see.
And eventually that will lead to a doctorate in occult studies. So it's kind of a title that is being like ultra positive about where I'm going. So I'm not actually a doctor right now, but I will be in 5 to 8 years.
That's interesting. Is that typical in your field or typical of doctor? I mean, when I don't know that much about medicine or your field in particular, in an academic sense. I don't know if doctors are doctors when they are examining you or if they're aspiring to be that way. Do you?
I do have a question for you. When you are, do you examine? What makes you a doctor? What I mean,
right? Yeah. There's no physical examination of any human being unless they're some kind of crow corpse, which wouldn't be a human being. It's more of a PhD type of thing.
I'm glad you brought this up because Eric and I had an episode about 7 years ago about crow corpses, and it was one of the only times we got into a fist fight because I said yes, a crow corpse is a man, because and the reason I believe this is when I see a crow corpse, I say, "What's that guy doing?" And I'm half joking, half serious, but at the end of the day, I believe that that's a guy.
Well, crows do have human-like intelligence. They can recognize. They have facial recognition.
So is that true?
Yeah.
So we're talking about an actual crow. I didn't know if crow corpse was like Cro-Mag, like a Cro-Magnum.
I like to say Cro-Mag. Yeah.
Cro-Mag. I didn't know if that was verbiage, some sort of paranormal verbiage that I'm not familiar with. But we're actually talking about a physical crow.
An actual crow, yes, that's what I'm talking about, yeah.
Well, that's very interesting. Well, tonight's subject matter, for those of you who are watching, and all our night crawlers are, well, looks like there's not a ton of you currently watching. But if you are, when you tune in, we're talking about aliens tonight, as we often do, but it's a subject worth revisiting because it's a hot topic on everybody's mind, wouldn't you say?
The topic tonight specifically is UFO theories. The idea is that, look, there are some, as anyone involved in the occult knows, there are some people who say, so the term UFO means unidentified flying object, and that means, I guess, in theory, right, that we don't know for sure that it's an alien. It could be a space surfer, or it could be a floating jetpack that's learned how to read and write. It could be any sort of thing that's awesome and that I want to own as something that I, just have in my house. But
let's make it look clear. As someone who doesn't actually have a house or anywhere to live, currently, I'd like to have just about anything in my house.
Yeah.
And you know what that's like. You've gone through transitions, right?
yeah, when I went through a divorce,
You were living out of a car.
I was living at a, yeah. I mean, look, I don't like to talk about the first 5. They call them the first 5 after divorce. It's like
There's 5 women, or just
no, the first 5 months. And
Oh.
it's sort of like the stages of denial, but it's like each month is a new stage in the post-divorce. The first month is party time. And that's when you take yourself to the proverbial cleaners, party-wise. You're going to, I don't care if it's a rave or a hip-hop dance. You're going there and you're going hard.
does the hat come off, or does it stay on?
To be honest, and this is the best part, I can't remember, but from pictures, it does not stay on, but I'm going to go ahead and say not on purpose. So the second month is realizing that you won't see your children anymore.
Mm.
And that's also month 3. Month 4 is McDonald's hiring?
Which, incidentally, is an entire month. Not many people know that, but they track divorcees, and they'll send you some literature in the mail saying, come work at McDonald's. We're hiring all month.
Well, funny enough, they didn't hire me. The 5th month is, will you marry me again? And the answer is, objectively, for all people, no. And those are the first 5. It's sort of like the final 4 in the end of life.
Now, Emma, as Alex is discussing, paranormal studies and paranormal research is very difficult on people like us in terms of relationships. Alex is divorced, as he was just describing. It's a painful process. I find it very difficult to actually even just convince any women to entertain the idea of forming any sort of bond with me. What about you? Do you find that your work is off-putting to, and I'm not just talking about romantic relationships, I'm talking across the board, family relationships, friendships. How does that factor into Dr. Emma Rogers' personal life, if that's not too presumptuous?
Honestly, it has not been difficult at all to, how do you say, like catch a dick. Just like catch one in your hand. Because honestly, there's a lot of occult dick to sling. So, romantically, it's quite easy to do that. Friendship-wise, you're always trying to start a new coven, of which is and it's quite easy to find that, especially in community college. There's a lot of people that you can swap blood with. They just very ample amount of people that want to
Okay.
exchange blood with you.
Let me just you that was a lot. I love the detail. Just a couple quick questions, just to kind of sort through that.
Right, yeah.
First of all, you're very open with your sexuality. Very comfortable catching dick. All this, which I love. I think that many of the paranormal experts that we talk to that are women, they're not just coming right out the gate talking about catching dick per se, but there's a new generation of women that are really excited to talk about that process. And
It's not much of a process. It's just really you just like catch it in your hand.
oh, you're talking about literally
and
catching
you
a dick.
Catch it, yeah.
Now, I don't want to be a downer because this is super fun and I'm super into what we're talking about. But I was ruined by a woman. And I don't mean that in a way where I say that women are ruiners as a species. And they are not. They are not. I don't want to say women aren't human, but they aren't from here. And again, I'm not trying to be a downer. I think I'm just what I'm trying to do is throw some cool stuff out there. And
Well, I mean, sorry. Would you like to respond?
You're saying women aren't from here, like here where? What do you just explain your stance?
Well, Universe 1, which is the Universe Prime.
Which is supposed to be better than
no, there's not. It's
or
nothing about
is
better.
there a
It's just
ranking
about
there?
who wins.
Gotcha.
And I'd say, look, it's not about who's better. It's about who wins.
I
And
think women win most of the time.
agreed. And I was defeated.
Gotcha.
Well, I think also women, it seems like you in particular, as a female doctor of the occult, or aspiring at least, you are able to access a certain type of spirituality. You mentioned your Wiccan skill set, toolbox. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, Wiccanism is a thing that you need to adapt into your life as a lifestyle. So everything that you do is created personally. So everything you do is like about your own cultivation of your own rituals, of your own spells. So it's really up to the individual to cultivate their own practice. I can't tell or give advice about how to practice Wiccanism because it's an individualized spiritual journey.
But if I were to pay you, and I'm not going to do this, but I'm thinking about it.
Okay.
But if I were to pay you $400 or $500 to give me advice, even though it's not possible, would you be able to learn how?
Give the advice about being a Wiccan?
Yeah.
A witch?
Because you said you can't give advice. But now this is
Yeah, I
something
could
that
I can do that if money was involved.
great, because Eric and I have a theory. We have a working theory, and it's not proven. It's not scientific fact yet. That everything that's impossible can be bribed into being true.
And part of the reason why we have that theory is because we don't have any money per se. And so to us, there is something very mysterious about money that it makes people do things that they wouldn't normally do.
Yeah, like nominally, the topic tonight is UFO theories. So, like, for instance, an example of this theory we have is someone will say, I don't believe in aliens. I've never seen one. And we'll say, well, how much money do you make a year? And usually they'll just look at us and we'll be like, exactly. Because if they were wealthy, they'd be able to bribe an alien into seeing them. Does that make sense? Because we've usually, when Eric and I, we we haven't been drinking, but we haven't been sleeping, and it always makes sense to us.
Question. So you're saying that aliens work in the same economic space as human beings? Like they will be bribed by human money, rather than like you're not saying that. That's just strange to like wrap my head around, I guess.
Well,
Strange, but it's also super cool and true.
here's one thing that here's one thing that we believe about aliens is they have it figured out a lot more than we do down here.
Like they would never wear Wranglers. They always pick Levi's, and they didn't even have to see any commercials.
And one other thing that we're convinced of is that aliens are ripped consistently. They don't have to deal with, oh gosh, I should get back on the treadmill. Have you ever seen an alien that was not taking really good care of themselves?
I haven't.
Look, I think like from all of the CG art I've seen on DeviantArt, what I understand about aliens is their body fat is probably less than 2%. They're the kind of guys who I knew in college who could say, "Hey, do you want to go to fourth meal at Taco Bell?"
Yeah. When I get on Turbo Squid and I'm looking for a 3D stock image of an alien, I'm astounded by their body fat ratio just being so minimal. I'm wondering, when you are researching some of your occult practices, what is kind of like the appearance or physical makeup of some of the people that you're running into on a daily basis? Would you characterize them as ripped and like just hot as fudge?
Well, I would say with all confidence that that's a no. They're all flabby, pale, human types. Usually with long jet black hair and black cloaks.
But do they listen to cool music?
Yeah, like, do they listen to Primus or Incubus's first album, Fungus?
Some of them do, yeah. Some of them do.
Are they into Mr. Bungle or early Faith No More at all?
Yeah. They love Primus for sure.
Like would they listen to Sigur Rós in like 1997 before Mogwai was big? Or like again, like would they listen to Tortoise or Slint?
I haven't dived into that element of their psyche yet. But
Right. Well, let me just say something quick about Tortoise in case aliens do listen to them. Just because you can make a 32-minute song doesn't make you good. And I don't care if you're on Sub Pop. Okay? I'm just throwing it out there.
We got a couple of comments here. We got maybe the reason they're so easily bribed is the cost of those alien gems are astronomically high. I don't know. I'm not sure what that means precisely. Michelle Myers, love this show.
Now, that is my mom. I just want to say quick, now, Emma, I don't expect you to understand this. I ran away from home when I was 31.
Guys, I'm going to cross.
Okay.
And my mom watches the show to see what I look like now.
Is she happy with it, or is she
She's happy to see me
alive?
And believe me, Mom, I am doing well. No, I will not be there at Christmas, and I'll tell you why. Because I can't afford to get you and Dad a present.
It's 2-in-1 thing.
Guess what? Guess what? I work hard for my money, and McDonald's does treat me right.
You know, folks, we have some footage that we can pull up of some alien encounters. And so why not take a look, and Dr. Emma, you can give us your take on some of this paranormal footage. Does that sound like a good idea?
That sounds great.
Okay. So let's. I mean, it's already good. We can mute that and just sort of talk over top of it. Now, do any of these hieroglyphs mean anything to you?
Oh, yeah. So the top layer says, it says, I did have cheese, and
It's so tantalizing. It cuts away before we find
Yeah.
out. I did have cheese. Well,
Yeah.
what else,
yeah,
alien?
we didn't
Well,
know.
that's the problem with a lot of the archaeologists is before they can get it all translated, it cuts away.
Right. That's exactly right. What you just experienced, Emma, is what all archaeologists experience, which is it cuts to the next shot
Yeah.
before they can finish analyzing it.
It's a classic archaeological issue that you come into face, and well, now we're being shown.
I mean, that looks like a really cool album cover for pretty much any band. For Rush.
See, that looks. I mean, this is all. Yeah, this is all alien spaceship architecture, and looks very, very real to me.
What have you learned in community college so far about alien spaceship architecture?
Well, we actually haven't gotten to that chapter yet,
Right.
but there's been a lot of gossip about it before
Right.
we've gotten to the lesson.
I think I took a class in the occult. I had to drop out because I couldn't afford it, and they found out. But I thought it was really cool how every chapter is preceded by a chapter of gossip.
Right. Yeah. I mean, like, anything folky, anything that's true to the human species has originated from a group of people who liked to talk, like to tell stories, like to be descriptive, and that's just a modern version of that very human instinct.
Can I ask you a question? What is the proportion at community college in the paranormal studies department of studying, poring over manuscripts and microfiche of ancient hieroglyphs versus taking bong rips in windowless vans in the parking lot?
Well, to be honest, at the ripe age of 19, it's mostly the second option that you described.
Which can put you in and that may have sounded like I was denigrating that experience, but the doors of perception in the mind are opened. Drugs are a valid gateway into the occult, I would say. Do you find that to be true?
Yeah, without drugs, I would never have
You would not have even gotten here
gone
tonight.
into the occult.
Right. Yeah, and we all got here by drug spaceship, and that's Tesla wishes. He goes to bed crying. He takes out his wallet, which is filled with all of his bank statements, and he wipes his face with his wallet, and he says, Jesus, I hope that tomorrow you give me a drug spaceship. And that's when Jesus comes down and he says, Tesla, grow up. You gotta earn that.
Question: do you think aliens have drugs, like alien drugs, at their expense?
That's a great question. We ought to have a whole night devoted to that. There are some theories that aliens have MDMA, and that they have ketamine, and that they have raves that are not unlike the scene in Matrix 2 where everybody is just partying shirtless, and that's probably what they're doing right now.
And then later in that same movie, the aliens are in a really long car chase.
Mm.
It's like a 40-minute car chase, and those two guys who are like, they're in white
They're like white
trench coats.
Rastas.
Yeah, exactly.
They're like albino Rastas with swords. That's got to be part of that whole thing happening right now.
What would have?
Can we just pause on this? I felt like this was particularly strong image.
Yeah, that's President Bush. That right there,
How
shaking hands.
how thoughtful of President George W. Bush when he was president, when he was 22 in that photo, to agree to have a photo taken.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, I'm sorry. Maybe you're right, and this is an early photo. I am under the impression that this is in the antechamber that the president was ushered into after he was told about 9/11 in that school, and this is the room he stepped into just to greet this alien before he went off to decide what to do next.
Every time, listen, we can all agree that every time a president is told about 9/11, they have to shake hands with an alien.
No, what happened is that 9/11 happened, which was a completely lizard brain operated alien controversy, and
Right.
this is just them agreeing upon their plan.
Sure. Oh, so
and then they're about to commence the alien human orgy that they have annually.
okay, so you are you believe 9/11 was an inside job
Yes.
orchestrated by lizard people,
Yep.
which are aliens,
Yes.
and that George W. Bush and the Bush administration was in on it, in cahoots with the aliens,
Mm-hmm.
and then there was some sort of orgy that took place afterwards.
Yeah, of course. I mean, why would they be taking photos like this?
I mean, that alien is not wearing clothes.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, exactly.
So what else is going on?
Yeah,
what's
what else is
what's
about to
happening below where they
ensue?
cropped?
Yeah.
I have an ability that I learned, not in community college, but from working at Sears, which is I can read lips from looking at a still image.
Oh, okay. What are you getting from this?
So from looking at the still image, I can see what he said before and after this freeze frame. And what he said is,
What's the margin on either? What's the margin on either side? Like how long?
Yeah.
Are we talking a microsecond or two before and after, or seconds or minutes?
well, it depends if it was shot at 23:98 or 29:97. I'd say, look, I'd say I can tell about 3/4 of a second in either direction.
So what did he say?
So here's the thing. I'm gonna have to think because 3/4 of the way in either second, it's not necessarily gonna be a full word. On a fuck after.
That's after.
That's the whole distance,
Oh.
beginning to end.
Oh, okay.
One more time. On a fuck after the.
So it stops after.
Yeah, that's the fragment.
That's the
you
fragment.
Pick up. Well,
That, first of all, I can see how Sears would set you up for that kind of skill, because you're walking past all sorts of photos all the time, advertisements in different departments, picture frames with still pictures in it.
I also had to sell combination washer dryers.
Yeah, which, I mean, talk about learning. Talk about some learning there.
do you mind holding my microphone while I urinate?
Sure. We can do that.
We could do that.
Listen, pissing is a long is a
It's
tradition.
ancient. Let's see.
The only problem is that's not a bathroom. But
Now we've got a couple of comments from Nightcrawlers watching the show. Dan DiMartini just says science, and boy,
I agree.
yeah, I mean that's hard to refute. That's not something you want to. I'm not about to refute that.
That's what Newton yelled. Isaac Newton.
Right.
He just yelled science, and he went on to become science.
Well, Newton, you wonder where the great scientists of yore got their secret knowledge, and they had to have been helped out either by some sort of paranormal entities such as shadow people, leprechauns,
Cat people.
I mean, so those entities probably did the heavy lifting when it came to the major discoveries.
Look, and the other thing is Eric, is that it's like Galileo yelled.
Yeah.
I'm standing on the shoulders of giants, right? And so I think what Galileo was yelling about was that he knew that if it weren't for the discoveries of prior natural philosophers,
And prior giants,
giants, that there would be no finding out that Earth does revolve around my sun.
and the Earth does revolve around your son, which is one of the
He's such a
show topics that is upcoming.
And I have twins, and I had to choose which one it revolved around. And believe me, I chose Ben because it's earlier in the alphabet, and I couldn't choose because they're both the same. They're twins.
Well, and because Ben's got that throwing arm.
Oh, man.
And
He is going to Notre Dame.
I mean, probably not on a full ride, but...
No. He's got to earn his way.
I want to say, Emma, thank you so much. Thank you again for being here. Like we mentioned before, getting kicked out of your apartment is no fun thing. Losing your show is no small task, especially for broadcasters who are used to a professional setup week after week. And so, but we are like mailmen. Rain or shine, Dark of the Night is going to be here, bringing you the same week after week truth-telling commentary on the paranormal, and we're just happy to have you here with your expert insight.
Happy to be here. Happy to provide all my paranormal intelligence. Any stories you need me to tell, happy to go off on them.
How did you get involved with the paranormal? What attracted you?
It all started with the Ouija board that I started to use in my clubhouse with a friend. You know what? Before that, we used to pee in a cup and try to leave it.
I was waiting for you to say that.
Yeah, and then we would leave it on the bedside table of her little brother, and we were like, oh, he always wants water in the middle of the night. Will he drink the cup? And he ended up drinking the cup of urine that we both peed in.
This is the way it branches out into so many directions, but this is how all people become interested in the paranormal. It starts right here.
Yeah. And then, so we started doing spells like that, where we're like, if you drink our urine, this will happen.
And can we just back up 1 second? And did the little brother realize what happened? Or was he just like, this is tangy, but I'm thirsty, whatever?
He didn't realize what happened until his mother told him, unfortunately.
Oh, so she was in on
that
it.
bitch. No, she realized, she was the one who realized what it was.
So she was just sort of sitting, maybe getting a bird's eye view of all this, maybe on a second floor on a balcony, just sort of watching over the situation, sort of like Zeus watches what Hercules is up to.
Yeah, she saw the whole thing happening, but she didn't stop it. Anyway,
Which is kind of cool.
Yeah, which is kind of cool.
Pretty chill.
Yeah, I mean, after that happened and we got away with it, and even though we got in trouble for it, it still was exciting. So we moved on.
I'm sorry. I don't mean to harp on this, but I'm just so curious when when multiple people are going through the early stages of their paranormal development. So this brother who drank the urine, he comes to the realization, I've just drank my sister and her friend's urine. They're mixed. They're using Ouija boards, et cetera, et cetera. Was that what happened to him? Where did he go? Did he go on to embrace the paranormal? Because I would imagine that he's probably experiencing a lot of complex emotions in that moment. And
Yeah, he did not go on to do anything paranormal. He just.
where does he work?
He's a banker now.
He's a banker.
Yeah.
Deutsche Bank or what?
Something of that
Something.
caliber.
I mean, the reason that's the most paranormal bank.
Well, there's what's the bank that the goblins work in Harry Potter?
Right. Keep going.
Anyway, after that, we decided let's go further. Let's talk to the other realm. Let's talk to the beyond. So we had a clubhouse that no one else was allowed in, and we did Ouija board moments, or like we worked on our Ouija board in the clubhouse.
You worked on the board itself, or you use the board and you consider that to be work?
We used it, that was work, because interpreting spirits' thoughts is a lot of work, you guys. I don't know if you've ever tried this, but it's pretty cryptic.
We gave up. It was too much work.
I did a little bit of that, but
It's like algebra.
I can't do that
It's
during
not
the
fun.
day.
Yeah, like the emotional geometry of spirits' thoughts is something that will take a scholar to navigate.
I want to unpack that term, emotional geometry, because this is one thing that people, liberals, I'll say it, liberals, it's one thing that people, when they're trying to figure out their new tax plan or their new health care plan, what they don't take into account is, what about the emotional geometry of ghosts? And then that shuts them, I'll say it, the fuck up.
Yeah, there's a lot of emotional geometry that goes with spirits that people don't understand. If you're living in a haunted house, your mental energy is caught up with all this emotional geometry that
Emma,
you would have never known.
You're gonna want to slide in because frankly, look, Eric, I don't know if you're a ghost or if this camera sucks.
Is that better?
That's better.
That's great. This emotional geometry that you're talking about, it's really neat that this allegory between the paranormal, the spiritual, the emotional, and math. And so, okay, so let's just push the analogy a little further. If there's emotional geometry, what is an emotional trapezoid, for example? What would that be? Would that be a sad emotion? Would that be a sort of a joyous emotion?
I'll explain to you. So, human beings are capable of feeling more than one emotion at a time.
Now we're getting into it, folks.
Wasn't sure if you were aware of that.
By the way, Matt Thiessen his comment is that Wells Fargo is the most paranormal bank, which
Okay.
is up for debate.
Agreed. We stand. We were wrong before about Deutsch. So
Sorry to cut you off.
yeah. So humans can feel more than one thing at once. First of all, that's bullshit. Second of all, keep going.
So we can feel joy, we can feel excitement, and then also at the same time, in a slanting relation, we can feel doom and anxiety.
Or Doom 2.
Or doom too, yeah.
Or Wolfenstein 3D.
I would even say, and again, not as good, but Spear of Destiny.
Right. So
All made by 3D software.
that, Eric, is a emotional trapezoid. we can find ourselves in a emotional state that is four emotions at the same time that are diagonally related to each other.
So let's say I show up. I'm a ghost, right? I've been out all night, freaking out in a rave. I was not on the guest list. I got in somehow. The bodyguard was looking for me all night. It was like a John Cusack movie where he's like looking over the crowd, but like I'm able to sit at the end.
And maybe there's like there's some maybe racial stereotypes if it's a John Hughes movie.
It is a John. This is let's say it's a John Hughes movie. There's some. Yeah, there's a guy. There's a funny Asian guy.
Okay.
There's a guy. The bartender has a German accent, and that's supposed to be funny. Like it's like, oh, here's a guy with a German accent. That's a joke. So that's going on too.
Okay.
Okay. Next morning, right? I say to myself, I'm feeling two things at once, right? I'm feeling happy and tired. Total opposite.
Opposing.
Yeah, total opposites. How do I know what shape I am? You know what I mean?
So think of something that has two points, but opposing lines. What shape is that?
The American flag.
That's great. This is really helpful. Okay, here's another scenario for you. I'm at Burger King. I'm in line. I'm so hungry. I'm getting breakfast, but it's 12:30, and McDonald's is the only fast food place that has breakfast all day. So I'm in it's a complex conversation I'm having with the cashier because they don't understand even what I'm talking about. So simultaneously, though, I am feeling complete a level of rage where if I open my mouth, I would just scream in a way that where my insides would just explode outward. And on the other hand, I'm experiencing a level of bliss that is so ecstatic that I can't even speak because every cell in my body is quivering with pleasure. What does that mean?
That's definitely a circle. Absolutely,
I'm
because
so-
It's almost like
it's working with opposites.
Yeah,
It's
I
going
mean, even I at the end of
round
that
and
story.
round.
Yeah, at the end of that story, I was like, "Fuck you, Eric. It's a circle." You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Because sometimes,
That's fucking obvious.
yeah, I mean, sometimes in very difficult mystical situations where you need a guide who does go to community college, and is in is heading into her
6
second.
months of the year, yeah.
Yeah. You do need to say fuck you, question asker, because not all questions are good. And I think like, and now Eric and I are willing to have an argument, but I think we can both agree it's exciting sometimes when we realize how horribly wrong either of us are.
I mean, potato is the way that I would respond to that.
What Eric is saying is he just said. What he's saying is everything I just said pronounced differently.
Right. It's like if you wanted to, it's like if I said exactly what you just said, but in French instead. Right?
That's exactly what I meant.
With a French accent.
So we got off on a long tangent, which is great because that's what the show is about. We're wanting to dig into every morsel of the meal revealed to us.
And really quick mini tangent. If you type out everything that's been said in this show so far, you will see a silhouette of a ghost.
Well, and it also is the exact sequence of the human genome. So that's cool. So, Emma, go on, and we cut you off. It seemed like we cut you off in your late teens as your journey into the paranormal is maybe you're cruising towards a GED, it sounds like. Is that
Right, yeah. So played around with the Ouija
sure?
board
Well,
in the
play
clubhouse.
work. Sounds
Play
like you
work.
were working
yeah,
hard.
I did. Yeah, I did. There's a lot of spiritual work that went into that period of my life. And so we reconnected with Marilyn Monroe, her spirit.
Oh, reconnected.
Reconnected with her because I
'Cause
feel
you
like we originally connected with her just by seeing her.
We all feel a connection to her.
I feel that about Newman from Seinfeld as well.
Yeah, I feel that about Jiminy Glick. So, sure.
Me too. I feel that way about him too.
Yeah. So you were saying, so you reconnected, and then what did that look like?
Well, it was just scary because the Ouija board was moving so violently when we were asking her personal questions. She was getting very upset when we asked her about Kennedy, and so we had
Naturally.
to move on to other spirits that in her life are less famous and less important.
She didn't know that Kennedy was dead. She's like, how's John?
Yeah, exactly. And we were like,
You were like,
oh, how do we explain this to you? And like,
you ghosted
letter
her.
by letter, yeah.
It would have been it would have been actually sick and twisted. But since it's a ghost, like you wanted these questions because I was gonna say it would have been kind of messed up if you had played that Misfits song "Texas Is the Reason," which talks about the Kennedy assassination. That would have been kind of cool. But then you wonder, is something that is sort of macabre and sort of like nasty, a trick that you play on a ghost, is that something they like because they're ghosts and that's their nature is like scary, spooky stuff? Or when you play a trick on a ghost, you say something that's offensive or pisses them off, does it actually piss them off?
Oh, it actually pisses them off for sure.
Okay.
It's definitely like they're just as sensitive as human beings are.
Okay.
They're just living in a parallel universe. You
Well,
guys
then-
should know about parallel universes.
We've been to one. We were to a parallel universe a few episodes ago, and a guy was
Gorf Stevens, we
Gorf
interviewed.
Right, Gorf Stevens, and he was both raising and eating gordongs, and what he was using for them. Well, the long story short is it was a desert and it was red, but like an unnatural red. So yeah, we know a little bit about parallel universes. It was almost like a pink color, the desert. So yeah, we know.
And in another universe, I still get to live in my apartment, and we are doing this show the way that we always usually do it.
I think that's a great. It's so cool to think that everything possible is a new universe. So in a different universe, my hat's kind of like a little bit like that. That's a cool universe.
Yeah.
I'd like to go there. I'd like to spend a day there and see what that's like. Or I'd like to go to the universe where my hat's sort of touching my drink. And I'd like to be like, oh, that's cool. I'd like to live 1,000 years here.
Yeah, I mean, it is exciting to think that in another there's a different universe where each one of my hairs is slightly positioned ever so different. And each one of those universes, it's exactly like this, and that's all. The only thing that's changed.
I think it's time to introduce our second guest, which is we framed it carefully to be here, but it just hasn't said anything yet. Okay, well, that's the same tune you've been singing the whole fucking show.
This is a plant that is imbued with the soul of Gallagher. So.
Did you want to say something?
Yes. I
What did you want to say?
Oh, you hit
Sorry.
me. You hit me. I'm a plant. And I'm also God. And yet not God. I'm a demigod. And I wanted to tell you not to fuck. Not to fuck. And the environment is just so important.
I'm blown away in two ways. One of them is hard to say without a book of words.
A dictionary?
Yes, that tell me new words to say how to say things. The second way I'm blown away is cool with a K.
I think it's just a good. I mean, as a Wiccan,
Mm-hmm.
I would think that you're very comfortable talking to inanimate objects, especially ones that used to be trees. Is that
Well,
maybe I'm making a wrong assumption?
inanimate objects, I think, I don't know about that specific turn of phrase, but I would say
Oh, I'm
Wiccans
sorry.
do
Did I?
have a connection with herbs or any kind of plant. Animate objects, they have to have a spiritual depth to them or meaning to them.
What kind of herbs would you say are the deepest herbs? The ones that have,
Deepest.
well, the ones that have the most psychic energy attached.
Oh, that's easy. Mugwort, which you can find at the side of the road. If you're just on the highway, pull over.
Just any road, just like pull over and there it is.
Yeah, it's like a weed. It grows like a weed, especially in the northeast region of the United States. Pull any kind of weed, it's probably going to be mugwort. And mugwort gives you psychedelic dreams. Some say it even gives you prophetic dreams.
Let me ask you a question. A lot of people, they pursue psychedelic dreams, psychedelia, because they want to open their mind to different possibilities, to another realm. Other people, they want to wake up screaming. They want to have an experience where they feel like their skin is being ripped off of their bodies. They want to have some kind of sensory experience that makes them feel like they're being stabbed with 1,000 knives made of hot flame. And which one of those would you say, would you condone? Which one of those pursuits do you feel like is legitimate in terms of psychic experiences?
Right, so if you want to feel like your skin is coming off of your bones, just smoke crack, honestly. It's a very simple solution. Just smoke some crack.
I love simple solutions.
Me too.
And I love people who are willing to say, look, and I do I do love them. You know what I mean? Like, but in the way that's sort of like, get in here.
Yeah.
I want you, come on in.
Bring it in.
Yeah, all right, yeah, bring it in. Where it's at, where it's like, look, yes, crack is illegal, right? But that doesn't mean it doesn't work great.
Or what the specific thing someone's asking me, that's the only solution, to be honest.
Yeah. Look, I don't want to get off topic here, but I want to know, because Eric and I didn't go to look. What we know is a very earthy knowledge of the paranormal. What we've learned about Sasquatch is from looking for Sasquatch. We didn't learn Sasquatch theory. We didn't learn ufology with Stephen Hawking's and friends, which are the same friends as Garfield's friends.
By the way, it seems as though Alan Twigo is watching, and we want to shout out to him. But he is an expert on the Keys of Solomon, which is an important paranormal object in that realm. But going back to what Alex was saying, yes, we're not book learned on all this stuff. We are more of the messin' with Sasquatch, Slim Jim commercial type of self-taught paranormal expert.
Yeah, we can't tell the difference between a great Sasquatch Slim Jim commercial or a great Jack Link Sasquatch commercial.
Do you intend to actually do research, or are you just going to continue trudging through the paranormal as if you are just the arrogant swine students that you're presenting yourselves as?
I'm going to have to stop you there, Emma. That sounds those are fighting words. You know, Alex and I are from the streets, the paranormal streets. We're not from an Ivy Tower.
We grew up on a ghost highway riding wolf motorcycles through just a bunch of bushes. Like there were no streets. It was just all like you know what the roads we ride down are? It's like instead of the forest being outside of the road, it's inside of the road, and everything outside of the road is road.
Yeah,
And we're riding through the forest.
And here you come with your public-funded ivory tower, community college educated. You know, you're probably reading every kind of Wikipedia article money can buy.
The whole article, even the suggested links.
Yeah.
And we just don't have that. We're not from means. We weren't born with a silver spoon in our mouth to go to community college. We had to work at Sears. I had to work at a balloon shop that made balloons. So, you know, we're doing...
I had to go shopping this afternoon.
I had to walk down the street and get the mail out of the my neighbor's mailbox.
I looked at a sidewalk and then found a newspaper.
I found an old Playboy near the on-ramp by the highway, and I was reading it. So what do you have to say to that, to people who can't afford to go to free college?
I would say read books that interest you, know your facts, don't just spew garbage into the ether that's unsourceable, untrackable, reference-wise for those who are listening.
What would you say to this, our listener, Alan Twigo, he's now talking about, he is a self-taught man. He says, I'm an expert on keys in general, skeleton keys, house keys, car keys, piano keys, Florida keys, etc. I don't know if that was meant to be a joke. He's not a learned man. He may not even have the intelligence of a 5-year-old. I don't know. We haven't talked in maybe a month or so.
We don't assume that and this is out of respect. We don't assume that our fans can speak.
We don't assume that they have brain cell 1 because we're just pleasantly surprised to find out if they have any kind of mental activity.
And that's us being PC.
Yeah.
And I see you yawning too, which
Sorry.
I wanna say that you were trying to throw up and you couldn't, because what you in trying to throw up, you were realizing that we're right, and you do need to climb like Rapunzel. You need to climb down your own hair out of the ivory tower and jump into a dumpster and get in there with Rumpelstiltskin and say, "I'll help you find your car keys."
yeah, and in climbing down from your own hair, you might need to climb out of your own ass. To be frank, I don't usually say that
You're
to guests.
inferring that there's a lot of hair in my ass, and that inference is correct.
Okay, well,
So
I'm more interested
just-
in I'm more interested in that as an analogy than I am a literal reckoning of
well, I'm
whatever.
saying it is a reality, and you better
Okay,
get
well.
used to that image.
We're gonna spend. Look, now I'm not a rich man, but I'm gonna take the next week off of work, and I'm gonna get used to that.
Alan Twigo says, "Has Emma had any experiences with ghosts in a shell?" And I don't know if he means. I don't know if he was talking about anime or what, but does that mean anything
Is that
to
a pornographic reference?
you? It's hard to say. I mean, I
I've read Friedrich Nietzsche, and from what I understand, all references are pornographic. Do you understand?
Yes.
Good. Then you read Human All Too Human.
Yeah, that's what that means.
folks, we're kind of rounding the corner here with the show tonight, and I'm really excited about where we've been. Emma, we kind of got into a place where it seemed a little adversarial here a minute ago. But, that's the nature of academia versus it's Main Street versus Wall Street.
Absolutely. What is discourse without disagreement?
Is that a quote, or is that can we quote you on that?
You can
Because that's
quote me
excellent.
on that. Yeah, I just made that up in the moment.
What is discourse without disagreement, folks? I think that's pretty profound.
I think that I heard something. The tree was saying something.
I am inside of you and all around you.
Slightly threatening, but also, let's
Kinda
be
cool.
honest, kind of sexy.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, Eric and I belong to a religion, and that religion is the religion that believes everything is kind of cool and a little, like interesting, and to quote Emma, kind of sexy. And that being said, everything can be either groovy or you can jerk off to it.
My question is, I also am just curious, like what kind of food? Most community colleges have like some sort of a food court. I don't know, like the really cool ones have maybe like a Chick-fil-A, a Qdoba. What is the most paranormal food or restaurant in the food court at your community college?
I would say the rap artist that makes our raps, because he sings while he makes the raps. Even when they're on a panini grill.
He probably used to work at Cold Stone because they sing there.
I didn't ask him where he worked, but his name was Dancing Dave, and he would dance while he made desserts and also sandwiches.
Yeah, I mean
And it was unexplained.
Yeah. This goes to show that paranormal doesn't always mean beyond understanding. Sometimes paranormal just means pretty fun.
Yeah, and it also is pretty cool too because this guy, he's enjoying creating outside of his core discipline because you were saying that he's a rapper that makes raps, and yet he's singing and dancing, which he's probably not as good at as rapping. So, I mean, maybe it might even be hard to listen to, but it sounds like you're there, you're getting a great sandwich, and you're also watching somebody try something new.
Yeah.
So that's a bonus.
Yeah. Well, I would say the beyond understanding definition and still applies. I would say it's beyond my understanding that this man is so enthusiastic about wrapping a sandwich day after day. with such shitty recipients receiving his sandwiches? You know what I mean? Like, how does he go on?
It's a good question, but I do think if we try to imagine something in our own lives that we find an unexplainable joy in, we can try to relate to Dancing Dave. For instance, every day I roll out of bed and I see that I have 2 pillows that I haven't been sleeping on. And that gets me rocking. Because all night I realized I had all these resources at my disposal for sleeping, for more sleeping than was ever possible. And you know what that makes me do? That makes me do like a Jackie Chan style, like up kick out of bed, where where I sort of do a sort of like a rollback and then kick up, and I'm just standing upright, sort of like happens in an action scene.
I need a trampoline for that kind of move, but you don't need one. You just have your
No,
bed.
because I used to. I maybe at some point, but I've done it so many times because I've seen those 2 pillows. So I've been living alone.
Right.
I mean, for 12 years. I mean, I've been divorced for 12 years.
I can relate. I was at the bank and I was walking through the drive-through lane. So I didn't have a car, but I was just walking up to the window, and I deposited a check, and then when they handed me my receipt, I just said "woo," and I did like a split. And when I did, it ripped my pants and my dick in half. And so that seemed to me like I was like, how did this happen? That must have been
Ouch.
paranormal. And, you know, I still don't know. And the doctors did not know. So I didn't even go to the doctor, but I emailed them, and they said that we don't know. So that may be similar.
How did you heal from that? I'm just curious.
I did not.
Okay, so
But-
now you're saying you have two
I'm
two
not.
dicks?
Well, you know.
Well, 2 halves.
Two
well,
halves of one.
Yeah. Let's. I mean, look.
We'll move
Eric
on.
and
We'll move on.
Eric, look. I don't want to move on because it's important that people. Eric and I aren't crazy. People think, people. I think you can relate, Emma. People think, oh, you believe in ghosts, you believe in aliens, you believe in Jawas, and people are say you must be crazy. Well, guess what? Eric and I don't think that if your dick rips in half, you get 2 dicks. You get 2 halves of one dick.
Yeah, you shouldn't be.
That's a big difference.
1 divided by 2 is not 2 ones. It's 2 halves.
And that's the logic that separates people that are hunting for the truth from conspiracy wackos, right?
And conspiracy jerk-offs.
Because I don't think that I have 2 dicks. I think I have 2 halves of one dick. Now, they may be flapping in the breeze, but they add up, and that's what makes our search. We scrutinize.
That's what keeps us going.
We
This is
keep-
what keeps us going.
We scrutinize every theory. We listen to everything, no matter how crazy. We've been doing this for 10 years. We've had some crazy, not crazy. We've had some really extreme people come on with extreme views. Some people might say, oh, Christmas is real, or Santa is a dream, or whatever. And we say, I'll listen to you. But if it doesn't pass the scrutiny of the rational mind, then Houston, we have a problem.
Yeah, and I want to keep this short because I want to let you respond, Emma, really quick. That guy was the same guest. He said first, he had 2 things he wanted to share. He said, first, I believe Christmas is real. We said wrong. And then the second thing he said is Santa's a dream. And we said wrong again.
Interesting. Okay.
So that was a lot, but
Yeah, that was a lot. Couple questions about what the response was. But just repeat the original question for me one more time?
Where do you get off, and who do you think you are? Those are the two core questions on both of our minds, probably.
Okay. Getting off. Getting off is a thing that is a magical thing that you need to explore for yourself.
Well, not
Especially
anymore.
as in
Not for me, but thank you.
I wasn't offering anything. I don't know. Hope you're not taking that.
I
as
can't
an
receive
offer.
anything. Like I mentioned, my accident has rendered me. Go on.
Dual
Dual-natured.
natured. Yeah, I would say getting off that. There's also the element of sex magic that we haven't really discussed yet. That's a whole other thing that you guys should explore. But really, what I want to talk about is alien sex.
Oh boy, this is a hot topic. This is something that is.
I feel like it's more on topic with what we're.
And
going
Eric
for.
does mean a hot topic.
I mean, hot topic is in like where I buy a lot of clothes. A lot of people in that store are talking about this right now, probably somewhere. What is your take on alien sex? Where does it happen? What does it look like?
It mostly happens in South America because that's where the weather's the best.
Right, because Brazil is like.
It's like Aichihuahua.
Yeah.
Aichihuahua, you know?
And surf every day. Mosquitoes aren't that nippy. And no
I
one really
imagine
gives a
that's
shit
super-
about government.
I imagine that not having super nippy mosquitoes is like the aliens are like, yes, sign me up for sex there.
Yeah, they don't have to take their niacin pills anymore. They can just go straight in. They don't get any itchy bites. And they can do whatever they want.
And no one caring about the government. The aliens are concerned with that because they're like, oh, great, now I can start a McDonald's franchise and not pay personal and corporate taxes.
Yeah.
Great.
And let me ask you this. I mean, human sex is sort of, I would imagine, in an intergalactic sense, sort of so pedestrian, sort of so, I mean, there's a lot of like, strange bits and pieces and smells and, et cetera, et cetera. Aliens must have it down to a much more refined process. So are there actually, is there intercourse in the way that we sort of like would recognize here on Earth, or is it more like just like a really great handshake?
It's like a really great handshake. It's more about because it's anti-gravity. You have to remember that. They don't have gravity like we do on Earth, so
it's not even zero gravity; it's anti-gravity.
Anti-gravity, yeah.
So
I have an anti-gravity, and every Christmas she shows up with $100 bill, and she says, "Alex, you know what I want you to do with this." And I say, "Anti-gravity, how did you get out of prison?"
Gravity school.
Yeah, anti-gravity, how did you get out of gravity school? And she says, because I graduated from Gravity University. And I flush her down the toilet.
Well, to be honest, she sounds like kind of a bitch anyway.
So with this anti-gravity intercourse, are we talking about just like two sort of fleshy, like,
You're floating.
like if you took two
You're
people,
floating, yep.
you're floating, but like, is there? I don't mean to be crass. Is there intercourse? Is there penetration, or would it basically be like two loose chicken breasts that you're just sort of slapping against each other?
Well, it would feel like the chicken breasts portion, but the penetration will still need to occur if humans want to regenerate the species. So it's kind
That's
of like
very
up
clear.
to us.
That makes probably more sense than anything I've ever
But
heard in my life.
It's harder physically to accomplish, but it's definitely possible.
So let's just go back to the turkey breast analogy. Let's say you're just slapping these turkey breasts
Right.
together. Would then what? Then you bring in some sort of like a Twix bar or some sort of like I don't know, a Rubik's cube, and you take the turkey breasts and sort of mash them around the Rubik's cube, or I'm trying to get a pretty vivid
you're
picture for our
both-
listeners.
You're both hugging in the air, and you're in the air. You're both hugging, and one may be upside down, and the other's on top of that, and you kind of just figure it out from there.
And are there 2 aliens, or is there like 5 or 6?
Well, it's up to you. It's like, do you want an alien orgy or do you want a one-on-one? It's up to you.
And is there, and I'm not asking for myself, but is there like a doodle where everyone is like, I can do this on Tuesday? And some people are like, 4 of us can do it on Tuesday.
Absolutely. There's
But-
apps
yeah.
already developed.
Yeah.
for
It's
that.
like, look, we all want to do this, but only 3 of us can do it on Tuesday, so we can't do it on Tuesday.
My earring just fell out.
See, now
That's a good sign.
that's a good sign. It's also a miracle.
Right.
Good signs are generally miracles. Like when I get mail, that's a miracle to me, because I like to know, my mailman doesn't know this, but I am concerned about him. And every time my mail gets delivered, I know he's okay.
Why are you so concerned about your mail guy? Do you think he's doing something paranormal?
Have you ever seen a movie where jokingly the mailman gets chased by a dog?
Yes.
Well, have you ever thought about that for a long time? Like,
No.
what would happen if that was real? Because dogs do chase guys.
Well, it is real, so I don't need to imagine it then. Just need to witness it.
Oh, I love spending time imagining things I already see.
Folks, I think that we've had an amazing journey here, learning things that we never thought were possible to learn. Emma,
I want to go ahead and say that we've learned all things.
yeah, I mean, if we didn't want to, we wouldn't need to have another show ever again.
We know now that our brains are not only full, they're destroyed. They're basically like our brains have turned it like it's inside Eric and my head. There's just a liquid of the constituents that our brain was made of.
And that liquid will probably have to be will be injected into condoms and then placed in a sort of pattern within the cavity of our skulls.
Yeah, they'll pack the liquid back into condoms and glue it together in the shape of a brain, and then that works. You know, whatever works, just like the Woody Allen movie with Larry David.
Yeah, so folks, that's what tonight has been like, and we're so thankful you've been able to join us. We're thankful for Dr. Emma Rogers, even though, you know, we kind of got into some heated debate, but that's the reason we have guests like yourself on, is guests with a different opinion, and so we're so thankful to have you with us. Do you have any last words for our night crawlers out there? Any admonitions or constructive feedback?
I would say if you want to speak to the unknown, the beyond, just talk about Marilyn Monroe, because that's the easiest way to access that realm. Once you get her, you get everyone else. It's the same way it was in show business back in the day when she was alive.
It's easy to troll Marilyn Monroe is the bottom line, basically.
Yeah, she's very vulnerable to criticism still after all these years.
Well, I can't think of any possible better way to end the show. So, Alex, why don't you do the honors and sign us off for this week's Dark of the Night.
Folks, we want to thank you for watching the show. Our guest was Emma Rogers this week. You've been watching Dark of the Night, and Nightcrawlers, remember, we're in a guy.
We'll see you next week.